Hello and welcome to Talking Affairs, Token Affairs.
Token
It's me,
Affairs,
Brian
bro.
Ventura, partner at Hamilton Lock. Hey, how's it going? It's me, Brian Ventura, partner at Hamilton Lock, specializing in fintech and crypto law. My co-host Trevor Topfer, executive director of Blockchain NZ and CEO and founder of Avatars Global.
Hey, Brian. Hello, everyone. Nice to see you again, mate. Here we are, episode 2, Token Affairs.
Round
Very
2,
excited.
Token Affairs.
Yep.
Man, our last episode was banging, right?
Mate, we kicked off with a big bang. For those of you who have just tuned in or have you been living under a rock and aren't part of the 40 million monthly active visitors that we have here at Token Affairs, you've probably missed the fact that we had the man himself, CEO of SwiftX, Jason Titman, on the first episode of Token Affairs, which was a really interesting episode where we learned a lot about what's going on in the region, some of the challenges that SwiftX are facing, and some of the enormous aspirations and goals that they've got to bring crypto to the average consumer here in the region, which was pretty exciting. And today's guest, no less exciting, and one that's shrouded in a little bit more mystery. I think this guest and the organisation that he represents is a fairly new player, or certainly they're making a lot more noise in the region. So I'm excited to talk to our guest today and find out a little bit more about what's going on in that part of the world.
Yeah, really excited. Should we bring him in?
Should we bring him in? There's no point in hanging around. Let's bring in Mr. Jori Fisher from MEXC. Jori, welcome, mate. Good to see you.
Good morning. Or I suppose depending on where you are in the world, if you're outside the Australia, New Zealand area, it might be afternoon or evening or something else. But good morning to us.
Good morning to us.
Good morning.
Mate, you are in Australia, is that right? You sit in your hot seat right now is on Australian soil.
Yes, it is. And you can probably tell from the, I've been told, iconically Australian accent that here I am. And yes, very definitely Australian.
Nice. Well, it's probably a little earlier in the morning for you. But thanks for joining us, mate. Hope you've managed to get a coffee in and straight out the gate getting put under the Token Affairs interrogation pump.
I'm ready. I'm ready. Give it to me. We're rocking. No, it's late for me. I've got young kids, so as you can imagine, like 9 a.m. is pretty. We've been up for hours, so we're all good.
I do remember those days. I don't miss them. Now it's work, right? I'm sure, Brian, you're in the same boat, mate. A friend of mine said to me recently, we used to go to work. Now work comes to us. And I think that's a really interesting way of looking at how life is,
Yeah. I mean, it's works plural, right? Because we've got multiple jobs.
And that's the other crazy thing.
At home. Now it stays at home forever.
Yeah. No more single careers, right? Like it's no longer kind of enough to have a single role. Everybody seems to be doing 2 or 3 things these days, which is crazy. All of this technology that's supposed to make us work less and enjoy life more seems to be working. That's a fantasy. That's a fallacy that we've been sold. I feel shortchanged.
We're living the dream, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, mate. Jori, tell us more about your background. I always love to ask this question. What was your crypto moment? What got you into crypto? And tell us more about your role at MEXC.
Yeah, a great question. So I suppose just like a lot of people, you see something on the internet and you're just like, oh, interesting, you get roped in. So for me, that was somewhat early in 2016. I think I was in a Facebook group and somebody was talking about mining some random thing, but not mining like in a hole, but mining online or something. So that's somewhat where I started. And then I think, once you get into the ecosystem, you start degenning with everybody else and you get into telegrams and you get into discords and you're in these projects, then you're moderating and then you're doing all sorts of other stuff. And so I ended up being at a launch pad and at a layer one and doing a variety of stuff from community perspectives, and then landing here with MEXC for this role, which has been unbelievable for the time I've been here as well.
Isn't that
a very short summary?
Isn't that a crazy, looking at the way the industry is moving at the moment, all of this, I'm sure we're going to get into this in the podcast, but all the sort of institutional stuff that's going on, the kind of mainstream adoption, if you like, of the space, all of these poor people that are coming into the space now, they don't know that pain. They'll never know what it's like to queue up and find your way into some random Discord and be hustling for the whitelist and all of those sorts of crazy things that we went through.
Yeah, it's not a thing anymore, right? And we had an event last night for ETH's 10 year, and we were talking about like the nostalgia of this. Like, were you here for these moments, and were you here for things like, did you get on any ICOs? Because ICOs before were so much fun, where it was like, here's a random wallet address, just send some money. Maybe you'll get something back. Like maybe you'll get something. And look, maybe you didn't get something back, but sometimes you did. And that was awesome.
You remember the BitBoy ones? I shouldn't even bring this up on our podcast. We're trying to keep the standards high.
Highbrow, that's right. We started the degenerate.
Random ones like some influencer would post about an ICO or an NFT drop or whatever it happened to be, the flavor of the month, and then everybody just pile in and give them money. And you literally send your hard-earned cash to some random address. Hope for the best.
Yep. Unverified. Oh, it's just here it is. Yeah, just take it, whatever. So long story short, if you wonder why I'm the way I am, that's why. I started there. That's the problem with me. That was my intro to the industry.
Nice. And so Jori, tell us a little bit about your role at MEXC. We were just backstage before going live, having a little bit of a joke about your official title and what that means. I mean, what is the ANZ offline ops manager do?
Yeah, great question. So, in a nutshell, my role is to bring MEXC to Australia, to New Zealand, to let everybody know that we exist. Offline operations, I suppose, directly relates to being an event, being a part of the local scene, to present us, whether that's on a stage perspective, whether that's just at events, being present to let people know how to use us, what we are, all that sort of stuff, as opposed to an online thing, which is like, the irony is we're online right now, but here we are. But it encompasses all those things, but it's just sort of, that's the role title, I suppose.
Yeah, interesting. So you're really like the main face for MEXC in the ANZ region, right? Like you're the main guy that sort of gets up and says MEXC.
Yeah, that's it. The recognizable bearded face, and you can't really see that with this jumper, but here it is.
That is born from years of degenning on Discords and not showering for days.
That's impressive, man.
Yeah, it's just stuck on here. This is head hair that's just crept its way down over many years of degeneracy.
Outstanding. Well, it sounds like they've struck gold finding somebody with your pedigree, mate, to step out in front of such a.
Yeah.
Like one of the things that I spoke to a few people leading up to this podcast, and I was at a crypto meetup just last night. And you guys were a sponsor of that meet. Your logos were all over the place there. And I was asking people, does anyone know MEXC? Do you use MEXC? And most of the people hadn't even heard of it. So, I wanted to kind of set some context here and give people an understanding about, MEXC. Like when I went down the rabbit hole, when we met, I don't know, a few months back, whatever it was, and I went down the rabbit hole, I was blown away. Like MEXC is a major exchange globally. And I guess your role is to make people aware of that. So tell us a little bit about, MEXC, give some context to our viewers and listeners about who MEXC are and what your main kind of line of business is.
Yeah, 100%. And I have to agree. I was surprised. So before I started working here, like I've been a long-term user of MEXC, been around since 2018. And like, I thought, given the size of where we are in the industry, which I'll get into that in a sec, that more people would realize that we exist. And I was over in New Zealand at one of the meetups, and I asked, how many people have heard of us? And to my surprise, it was like nobody. I was like, this is crazy. So just to give you an idea from a global perspective of where we sit in terms of size and all that sort of stuff. So we're in the top 10 globally as an exchange. So we're right up there with some of the bigger names that I'm sure that everybody else has heard about. It's just that we're a little bit more under the radar. But in terms of volume, if we take some numbers straight off, coin market cap, our daily 24-hour volume for spot is over $4 billion. And I think that I backstage, I had another one for even derivatives, I think was quite significant, $32 billion worth of derivatives. So Like it's not like we're a back alley exchange that nobody's ever heard of. Like we're right there in the top 10, and it's easily seeable. You can go and see all the details on there on things like CoinMarketCap, and we're easy to find. So that's what I mean when I turn up to some of these events. I'm like, wow, I expected that more of you would know that we exist. So and which is why I suppose my role is important too. So letting people know that we do exist, and how you can plug in, and what I suppose what some of our specialties would be, and what some of our best things you can use this for, and all that sort of stuff.
It's cool. It's cool how you started off as a customer of MEXC. It seems like you've been on that MEXC journey for 7 yeyears now. And
yeah.
You're now inside the hood.
I am. Yeah. It took me 7 years to get in. Yeah. Yeah. No, but yeah, like that's one of the things. So one of the things I'd say that we are prominent for is early listing of tokens, which is actually why I was a customer there initially, is because the ecosystem I was a part of, a lot of the exchanges didn't necessarily have some of the tokens I was trying to get. So this early access to major exchange is something that I would say MEXC is a specialty to, and you can get those tokens earlier than any of the other ones. Like everybody always talks about previously, obviously, if you haven't been a part of the ecosystems of crypto for a while, but the saying used to be when Binance, right? Because if you're a meme coin and you've made it to Binance, in theory, then that's like the god candle everybody talks about, right? But it's like, where do you get it before that? And where you get it before that is MEXC. And like I said, I just thought everybody knew that was where you went. But as it turns out, no. So I get the absolute pleasure of now opening people's eyes to, look, there is a whole host and variety of things that you can get that are at your fingertips and accessible, because we have them.
Yeah, one of the exciting things I found about MEXC, I actually was a user of MEXC before we met, but it was the first platform that I encountered that offered leverage. And I remember I went on my leverage journey when I first signed up to MEXC. I can't remember what brought me in there. I needed to buy some token, and the only place I could get it was MEXC. So I joined, and then I discovered this thing called leverage, and I was like, what the hell is this about? And I went down this rabbit hole to learn, because it's a fairly unique thing to crypto. I mean, yes, it exists in other markets, but it's definitely a major player in the crypto space. So is it something that MEXC is renowned for? I mean, was I just lucky to find that? Or tell us a little bit more about some of the services that you can access and some of the opportunities you can access on the platform.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's it. I think one of the things that is so awesome is we have so much offering. And it's not whether it's leverage trading, whether it's spot trading, whether it's any of that sort of stuff. There's even stuff that I'm still learning about, where we had somebody, I was on another call, and somebody's like, oh, tell me about these bots that you guys have. And I was like, oh, I'd love to, but let me come back to you because I don't know. So that sent me on a journey. And I actually met up with this guy last night at one of the meetups. And he's like, how'd you go with that? And I was like, this was really interesting. Like, so like grid bots and all that sort of stuff. So, because I've never used them. So I was like, oh, well, this would be interesting for me to go and look at. So I had a look at all that sort of stuff, and I was playing in there. So we have, different API keys, different grid bots, and we even have things like launch pad style things as well, where you can contribute to early stage projects that are coming to the exchange. But on top of that, we have one more thing, which I think would be quite significant, which is you can plug into the DEXs as well straight from MEXC. So you can plug in with your wallet into the DEXs and be a part of like those ecosystems as well, without necessarily having to leave MEXC. And I think that's another major thing that's an innovation that we're bringing to the space.
So you guys are the only one that do that. So you kind of have now you've kind of got a foot in both camps, right? You're a centralized exchange, you're also a decentralized, or you can access decentralized exchange. So it's a very interesting opportunity.
Yeah.
And like I said, I don't think it's necessarily super well put out there, because I found out by being like, oh, what does this button do? And then you end up over here at like some other random thing, and there's all sorts of learning platforms. There's all sorts of stuff on there that
this transaction fees.
What's really cool is we're so broad in what we offer that there's still something you can find every day. Like there's always a competition going on. There's always something else going on where it's like, oh, we have this. There's also this other thing, and that's what I think is exciting. Is where obviously we're one of the top 10 leading industry, like in the industry for the basics, whether that's just trading Bitcoin, Ethereum, all that sort of stuff. But then there's other things on top of that as well, which make us unique, where you can go and have a play around and put fingers in all sorts of different pies with different services as well. So the more you want to do, the more you can do, I suppose, is the broad statement for that.
MEXC seems like it's built on interoperability, open ecosystem. Is that where you think the industry is heading for exchanges?
So our catchphrase, I suppose you would say, is your easiest way to crypto. And I think that's where we need to be, where you need to have a full service thing, because people, because of the style of people we have coming in, for example, this could, hopefully this sounds right in context. This is a very contexted statement. So we have people that, I went to a meetup recently as a guest there, and the average age was over 80. And it was wild. It was like, and there were a lot of people there, and they knew heaps of stuff, and that was amazing, because it's not traditionally what I would expect from, if you say crypto degen, I'm not picturing.
You're under 30.
And most of them were ladies, which is crazy. 80-plus-year-old ladies, and they're like,
Wow.
oh, look, like, I own like 50 meme coins, and I was like, what? Like, I'm trying to get one.
Heard it here first, folks. The untapped opportunity of the crypto space is retirement villages.
Yeah, and like that's wild, right? Like that's So, long story short, though, their level of let's say technical proficiency isn't going to be the same as somebody that grew up with an iPad. So we need to have things that are easily accessible, easy for them to be able to use, easy for them to be able to plug into a lot of different things without necessarily going down the full degen route of, okay, I'm going to find this bridge, put this over here, get this DeFi yield, take this other thing from over here, remask it, put it back over here, and that'll get me an extra 3%. Most people aren't doing that for reasonable reasons. So then how do we make it so that people have access to things like that, but without leaving one platform?
I mean, like 80-year-old woman getting into crypto, that's an amazing story. Like it sounds like crypto has really become mainstream. What do you think about that?
I think we're heading that way. I don't think we're totally mainstream in terms of users, and I say that I use this example all the time. Whereas if you go out here to my street and you just get everybody out on the road and be like, how many of you actually own crypto? Or how many of you? And then the next step is, how many of you know how to use it? So there's people like, I opened up an account and I bought some or whatever, but I've forgotten the password and I can't. There's that. But then there's people like, I can make a transaction on chain, and that's completely different camps of people. So are we mainstream? Like, does everybody know that Bitcoin exists? More than likely, most people in the world know that it's a thing. Like it exists. How many people are owners? And I think the stats for Australia was 31% of Australians. I'm not sure about New Zealand, but Australians currently own some kind of crypto. So there's like, and then if you put that in context of money, how many Australians own at least one Australian dollar? Surely it's everyone. Like surely everybody has at least one or some form of debt that gives them one, so there's still 69% of people there that are completely unengaged. And I would say even of the 31%, those people are only, a quarter engaged, because they might own some, but how much do they actually know or do?
What do they do with it?
Yeah.
Are they engaged and active on the platforms? Are they staking? Are they looking for ways to generate yield and return? Or are they just buying a bit of Bitcoin because their 25-year-old grandson in this example said, Grandma, you've got to get some Bitcoin and have it in a cold wallet in case the end of times comes.
100%.
I'm interested to know how many of that demographic are doxed versus undoxed. I think that would be an interesting conversation. Like how many of them are hardcore degens and are participating in a decentralized or DeFi in its purest form, where we don't need to declare our age, name, sex, location, all of those sort of typical data points that most financial institutions require from us. It'd be interesting to see how many, like you say, what percentage of those adopters that are coming into the market now that, Bitcoin, Trump, Genius Act, all of these things are in the news all the time. The narrative is definitely rising into the surface, and how many of those people are in those environments and really understanding the opportunities of DeFi, and how many of them are looking at it just like, oh, Bitcoin's this thing that keeps going up. Better I buy some of that because it'll be worth more next year than it is this year.
Yeah, it's a really good question too, and it's something I think is that we all need to address progressively is the learning curve of getting in. Like, okay, if I want to go and grab 5 friends and be like, you should buy crypto. Buying initially is fine, but what then? Like, what do you do with it? How do you use it? How do you find out how you take, as an example, collateralized loans, or how do you farm DeFi, or how do you do any of these things? And for all of us that have been around for a while, how did we learn most things? We lost some money trying stuff. Like, it's usually, and it's like, oh, I paid for lessons, but the paying was very different in terms of, now you can pay a coach. We paid tuition. We paid suffering is what we paid in. So
yeah, and that's what I was saying before. Like, none of the people coming into the ecosystem now are going to feel that pain. Like, none of them are going to know that they clicked the wrong link and lost 10 grand and had to face that fact. Just drop 10 grand.
It's like bridging now, right? Like, bridging is so much better. Like, you click it, it turns up, and it even gives you it'll probably be about this much time. And don't panic if it's not there in like 8 minutes. It should be there between like 12 and 15. Here's the transaction. Here's all the things that are happening. And you go, sweet. That's not what used to happen. It used to be like, click. Oh, God.
Please.
Yeah. So, we've evolved so much. And if you weren't there for that suffering, you sort of don't get how important that. And I'm sure that there's the same with, like, in all industries we've come through. It's like, oh, you don't know what it was like to have to ride a horse and cart. It's like, yeah, well, yeah, fair enough. So yeah, just different things, different strokes of the same brush. But yeah, so we are growing, we are evolving, and I think some of the pain points have been taken out, but also how good were the pain points in terms of learning? We've come a long way in that sense, and it feels good to be able to grow from those moments.
Yeah, all great stories, I think.
I remember in 2017, during that bull run, it was about, when's the ETF? Everyone was waiting for the Bitcoin ETF. And then it finally came early last year, and it's become the most successful ETF of all time, right? And now we've got, in 2017, it was like, oh, is crypto illegal? Like, is it criminal? Is it criminal to deal in Bitcoin? And then now we've got all these legislation, especially in the US, all around the world, on crypto. Well, I mean, where do you see Australia and New Zealand in that regard?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think we lag a little bit, right? We go, oh, let's see what the rest of the world does, and then maybe we'll jump into. I find we're removed geographically, and then we're slow to get all the updates. Like, I think from a institutional point of view, so I've got some stats for this. So early July, we had the most amount of Bitcoin, so 18,476 BTC in a single week, flow into Bitcoin ETFs, which is massive. And to put that into perspective for people, like what that looks like in terms of actual adoption use case, all that sort of stuff. Currently, the mine rate of Bitcoin is 450 a day. So that's how many new Bitcoin come into the ecosystem on a daily basis from mining, 450. If you've got 18,476 being rolled up by institutional investors on a weekly basis, even if it's only half of that going forward, or a tenth of that, or whatever, we're still significantly in a deficit, let's say, of what's coming in to what is being required to be put into the ETF investor funds. So from that perspective, we only see where do things have to go. Like, if we've got so much demand and so little supply, that's basic math. So, and from an Australian point of view, I know we're starting to get to a point of view where it's not necessarily, I think, people's first, oh, well, I'm going to put everything in Bitcoin type thing, but there are now starting to be conversations. There are people going, well, what if I could do self-managed super? What if I could put some over here? What if I could take some of this thing that would be standardly put in, you know, your normal banks and all that sort of stuff and place it into crypto? So we're starting to get conversations, and even from my own personal perspective, I'm starting to get conversations from people that I wouldn't expect, that are sort of like, oh, I'm now interested. Like, I'd like to know more about how could I do something like this? And they might not be at that point where they're like, I'm doing it, but they at least have the interest about it.
Yeah. We have this expression, right, from the last run, you know, when strangers are asking you about crypto, that's a top signal. You know, and when your family are asking you about crypto, that's a bottom, right? Like your family only tend to talk to you when the markets are at its low. How are you, Jori? Are you okay? Shut up!
How's that going? Yeah. Oh, your Bitcoin thing's going well.
Here yours going, you know. So look, it's interesting. You know, the Bitcoin ETF is the most successful ETF of all time. You know, your thesis around supply and demand for cryptocurrency is the whole reason why the space is exciting. You know, the people who were red pilled in 2017 or in the 2021 cycles kind of got that and understood that, and have been mostly, for the most part, holding firm since, knowing that what's kind of happening now and what we're starting to see in the market is what we've all been talking about for the last, you know, near enough a decade.
Yeah.
What I'm finding fascinating, though, and I would love your take on it, Jori, are all these meme coin ETFs that are popping up. So it seems like the traditional, you know, your Bitcoin, your Ethereum ETFs, there's maybe starting to see some Solana, starting to see some of these other more reputable XRP ETFs. And now we're getting into Bonk and Fartcoin and all of these other wild random altcoin ETFs that have been filed for. What do you think's going on there? Is MEXC engaged or involved in this market in any way, shape or form? You know, what's your take?
So I will say, if you are looking to get your early access to your meme coins and things like that, we're definitely the place for that. We generally have first listing of a lot of these. So we had Bonk ages before the other exchanges did, you know, so the access is there. And this is a debate I think is really interesting, because people go, these are pure shit coins. Why? And what's that saying? One man's trash is another man's treasure, so to speak. If you look at anything in terms of a collector's item, and let's use like what are they, like bops or bobbleheads or whatever, like for probably, I don't want to say most, that's probably offensive, but for some people, they look at that and go, that is pure garbage. Like, I do not need that in my life. These are trinkets, get them out of my house. Whereas other people be like, oh my God, I just paid $7,000 for this thing because it's like the pinnacle of my collection, you know? And what does it represent? What does that thing represent to them? And it's a culture. It's a, it might be a community group. It might be this, and let's use Dungeons and Dragons, for example. Some people are like, absolutely not. That's not for me. And then you have other people that are fanatical about it. They're like, we're going to meet up. We're going to play like every single week. And they have like these dens of gaming workshops where you can go and you can play other people that are in the same boat, right? And I would put meme culture in that same category. So does that mean that they're less legitimate? It just means that they're differently legitimate, right? So we have Bitcoin, which is sort of like your money standard. You have Ethereum, which is then your smart contracts. It's your DeFi. It's the things you can use and actively participate in financial markets from a cryptocurrency smart contract perspective. But then you have these other things where it's like Doge, pure culture. Like what's the purpose of Doge? And initially it was like oh, look at you, you've done something good on the internet. Have a Doge token. Well done to you. And then that became like, oh no, there's something behind this. Like, you've got Doge, I've got Doge. Oh, let's put this dog on everything. Let's put this dog absolutely everywhere. And then maybe Elon will pick it up and pump it to the moon. Like it's more so human culture and connection, I think, is what meme coins are. So is there a reason to have them inside an ETF? Is there a reason to have any of these sort of things that are like culture based, I suppose, inside ETFs, where it's purely around how do you feel as opposed to how do you financially live your life? I know that's a pretty weird answer, but
I think it's a great answer.
It's a great
point. You know, the idea of culture, right? Like, we've been talking a pretty significant chunk of this podcast has been about us reminiscing about our journey and our early days in crypto, and how that, that's a bonding experience across people who have been in the industry early. And I think meme coins are a representation of a period in time. I think that there will certainly be some that live on, like all collectibles, of all of the billions of collectibles that have ever been created in the world, only a handful remain that sort of got traction and became the Dungeons and Dragons of the world, of all of the other role-playing games that existed. That seems to be the only real one that's kind of stuck and built a culture around it. And I think meme coins are the same kind of thing. My curiosity, I guess, around all of this is, does an ETF that kind of groups these things together and allows retail investors to buy a piece of it, does that legitimize it in a different way? Because for me, meme coins is all about pump and dump, right? It's all about the world's largest casino that we can play 24/7, and you don't need to be of age. No one's asking you for ID. No one's cutting you off at the bar. It's just how much have you got in the fridge? All of these, it's this wild casino that we've all enjoyed and played at times. But does putting them into an ETF change that culture? Does it change the way that meme coins are perceived by the average person, and they sort of become like a stock market, where it becomes very much a financial instrument?
Just thinking how wild they're going to be. Like, you've got your picture of your cat up there. I'm trading these cats today. I
remember the conversations during the NFT times. I bought a rabbit and I bought a monkey, and the monkeys are going to the moon and all this sort of stuff. It was just such a ridiculous. The average person listening to a couple of NFT heads having a conversation just must have sounded so outrageously stupid.
I bought this pixelized flamingo. Yeah.
And I sold it
for
a real
$100K, mil.
Yep. So, like, I suppose, yes, if you've got a basket of meme coins, but I think that there's differences, right? There's meme coins that have developed herd culture, let's say, with thousands of people. They're all behind the thing. Like, if we give a shout out to some of them, obviously you've got Doge, you've got Shiba Inu, you've got Floki, they're a very strong community. Like, there's heaps of them that have really strong communities. And then there's, like you said, the meme coin casino, which is, you go to one of these launch pads, you spin it up, you pay one sol, you just dump it out there. There's 50,000 other ones made a day. That is the casino. So I think there's a difference between something that's come to fruition out of people being like, wow, we've created an idea or something that's relative to the culture of what this group of people believes, or something like that. And then there's the other, which is, we made this thing, slapped a website on it, and we're going to pump it. Like that, there's different. Those things, I think, die out very quickly. They're up, they're down. Yeah. But then there's other ones that we see that last a long time. Like I said, if you look at, and each chain, I think, has one that's representative. Bonk seems to be the big one for Solana. Obviously, Doge is its own thing. You've got Shiba Inu, you've got Pepe, which is Ethereum based. And they each have their own, I suppose, home. And it's funny when the host coin seems to pump, so does the meme coin of that specific host coin. So I think that they're representations of a community as well. So Pepe, I find, has a lot of ETH people in it, just the same as Bonk has a lot of Solana people in it. So there is nuance to it. And I think that, yeah, exactly as you said, like there will be some that are legitimized, but it's knowing the difference between that and then what we have over here, which is you're going to the local races and you're picking something like one of these horses they've run out of the scrub, and this horse has never raced before, and it's just one of those, we'll just see how we go, and then they put them back in the scrub after that. So that's totally different to here's your culture coins and here's your proper shit coins.
Yeah. I think it's a good distinction. It goes to what you said before, Jori, about interoperability, about being consumer first. And for me, my theory about these meme coin ETFs is it's just another channel for people to adopt meme coins or adopt crypto. It's like they're probably not comfortable logging on, create an account with MEXC or another exchange, but they're happy to call their broker, go and interact with brokers and buy through that platform. But it's all kind of one big ecosystem. Yeah. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, and that's probably true too in terms of rails. Like, if you're somebody that's more comfortable with, I suppose, the traditional finance, and now that we have those rails for people to be able to participate, and so like, oh, I've seen this dog coin, I'd love to get some of that. It's opening that up to them as well, as opposed to it just being locked into the very, okay, if you're not in the trenches, if you're not in the meme coin trenches, you're not part of it. So it's how I would liken that to, like, let's say we've got a football stadium. The people that have the season tickets are the people that are like, this is our club, this is our culture, this is our thing. Yeah. And then you've got people that are like, oh, I like that, I'll buy a shirt, but they're like 7,000 kilometers away. And so I would say that's where an ETF sort of plugs in. It's like you're letting the people that are 7,000 kilometers away that want to buy a shirt participate in the ecosystem.
Yeah.
Also knowing that there is a stadium where there's like dedicated maniacs in here that live and breathe this coin. So there is differences, and I think allowing people to have the exposure but removed is pretty awesome. But also still allowing those other degenerates to be degenerate is also important.
Yeah, I think that, the entire crypto space is built on that culture, right? That culture of degeneracy. The whole point of meme coins is that they're actual real money, but it's fun, Like, when was the last time you got excited about going to the bank and talking to the bank about, or having any engagement with your bank from a fiat point of view? I just find banks, by and large, are frustrating things. It's a necessary evil in my life. Whereas trading on exchanges, being in those Telegram groups, finding and getting that information about the next one that's coming through, and something that nobody else does, and all of that stuff that drives this culture. It's so addictive and it's so much fun, and yet it's now becoming validated, which is really, really cool, because I think it was born from generations of boring, white collar compliance and taxes and fees and working, and then suddenly out of all of this spawn this wild ride of financial sovereignty and the limitless opportunity that financial sovereignty gives us. Like, the people, like, my point of view is, I believe financial sovereignty is important for every single individual. I think it's a better deal if you take control of your own financial situation and you're able to pull the levers and move things around and take responsibility for it. It's a much better deal than engaging with a centralized kind of existing or legacy system. But the ability for that to open up this entirely unexpected world where people are just so frustrated with the old model that they're jumping into these things and creating these crazy things. And the whole point is, the wilder and weirder it is, the more popular it is. The fact that Fartcoin has a bigger market cap than most raw minerals on Earth is an exact example of why this culture is so funny and exciting and fun for people to come in. So, I think that I'm all for the ETFs of meme coins, because I think meme coin culture is something that takes the idea of cryptocurrency beyond conversations around DeFi rails and 24/7 borderless payments and all of the things that Brian and I talk about in our world all the time. And it brings a sense of sort of a bit of rock and roll and a bit of fun and excitement to it all, which is not something that you would associate with a traditional fiat-based currency system. It's like this thing that exists that I have to participate in because I've got to pay my rent and I've got to get a job and I've got to do all of those adult things. And then over here, I've got this other financial system that's just like this wild ride that's full of all of these incredibly weird people who are all super passionate about it.
All around the world.
And they're all over the world, that I can engage with them all the time. It's such an unusual and interesting thing. It's a great time to be a part of it, I think, and watching it all take place as the mainstream kind of users come on board.
So interesting thing, like we were talking about yesterday, we were talking about how previous to being inside crypto and all that sort of stuff, or inside blockchain as a general ecosystem, how much did I care about economics and global economics?
Yeah.
Zero. Then you go around the other way. We learn all about whatever. And you're learning, it's like, oh, but this one's different. It's got a picture of a frog on it, but also this is how money works. And you learn all these things, and then you start to care about other stuff outside of that because it affects now what you care about. So you're like, oh, global macro. When was the last time I cared about that? Never. But now I'm like, no, geez, the rates coming out today in the US. I don't know what's going on there, because that's
global liquidity. What is that?
Stuff.
What's happening today with global liquidity? Are we up? Are we down? What are the market's going to do as a result of that? And my son, I've got a 19-year-old son, and he is just the ultimate degen. I mean, he knows more about financial systems and how money works at 19 than I do. And it's because of this culture. It's because of this, I guess, opportunity, or this moment in time where, I hate to use a cliche, but it feels like the people are taking that power back, right? Instead of being fed a system, we're creating it. We're literally figuring it out as we go, and we're a part of it. We're a participant in this new economy, rather than just being handed this sort of system and saying, this is how it works, and this is your role in it all. I mean, you can literally create whatever you want right now, and it's a whole lot of fun. But what I think's happening, and I'd love your take on it, and I'm just sort of conscious of time. So I think we're at an inflection point. We've talked a lot on this podcast about the wild times of crypto, the early days of what it was like to be a part of, all of the interesting little technology advances, like NFTs becoming a thing, and then, tokens becoming a thing, and then meme coins becoming a thing, and all of these sort of changes in technology that have enabled these things to happen. But what's if we zoom out of that a little bit and look at the context of the world right now and what's happening, I think we're at this inflection point. I really believe, we were talking about this with Jason last week, I really believe that we are in that run. We're in the mother of all runs now, where institutional money's flowing in, retail investors are starting to give a shit, and their money's flowing in. ETFs for meme coins are coming on board, and with high probabilities of being approved. So I wonder if all of that culture and all of that stuff that we've been talking about is about to fundamentally shift. What do you think about where we're at with this inflection point? Is there a MEXC kind of viewpoint? Obviously, there's a Jori a view of what's going on and where you see it heading, but is there a MEXC understanding of what's happening, and anything you can kind of share around that?
That's a great question, and I think it's to go back to what I said before, which was your easiest way to crypto, and the reason that needs to be a thing is because it's becoming predominant. Like, it's becoming a global thing that it's not going away. We're now at the point, and I can't remember exactly what the words of the old saying is. Like first they'll ignore you, then they'll fight you, then acceptance is next, or something like that, and then they join you effectively. And we're at that point now where everybody's past that point. It's like, well, it's not going anywhere. We're not fighting against it. We're not, we can't beat it, so we'll have to join it. And then now it's the tug of war of, okay, they're trying to. We have, I would say, global powers trying to join the people and the revolution of the people's coin, the people's public of our own finance. But we're trying now to find where's the middle point? Where's the middle point of, okay, we want to play the game, but we want to play the game where it works for everybody, but we also don't want to give up some of the things that we've managed to claw back using our own monetary society, I suppose, is how I look at that. And so from a MEXC perspective, obviously we want to be at the spearhead of that to be able to facilitate everything that's needed inside the blockchain crypto industry, where it's, like I said, your easiest way to crypto. So from my own personal perspective, it's sort of like I'd love to see a level of sovereignty where we can still keep that, where we still keep this. Okay, well, this is the people's money. This is the people's systems and DeFi and all that sort of stuff, so that we're not losing what we've had, what we've clawed back for ourselves. And is this the first time in history where we as the people have something that belongs to purely us from the ground level that is now globally distributed? And can we maintain the ownership of that, I suppose, as we move forward? And I think that's so important. But like I said, we're now at the battle point where it's like, how can we make it so that we're streamlined together in parallel, as opposed to being like bashing heads or perpendicular? We want to see how everybody can participate, how globally everybody can participate in their own safe way, but how we can also maintain our own rigid structure of sovereignty. I think as an encompassing shell, that's probably my thoughts on on that as a statement, and I hope that sort of answers that question, because I think we're right at the precipice of we're going somewhere and we're doing something. But I know that all of us want to know that we're going in the right direction as well.
I think it's a good answer, mate. You talk about people's money. It all started with Bitcoin in 2009, and it was literally people's money. People would run nodes out of their computers, and it was just money run by the internet out of computers, and now it's become this global asset class. In terms of people participating, you mentioned before, Jori, where do you see New Zealand in this? Like, do you have a particular view?
I'm loving getting over to New Zealand, and so I'm on the east coast of Australia. So it's just like, it's actually closer for me to go to New Zealand than it is to go to some other places in Australia, which is pretty crazy. But no, I love getting over there because I think from a New Zealand perspective, that people are willing and really open to what's out there. And I know that New Zealand too is, from what I understand as well, from a top level, are open to actually wanting to come to the table and go, okay, well, what is the best way forward, and what's the best way for the people forward? And I say that New Zealand citizens seem to be like really willing to know stuff. So some of the best conversations I had over there, weirdly, were the Uber rides from the airport to where we were doing the meetup for Crypto NZ, and then on the way back. Those were the two most in-depth conversations, because they were, I would call them unsuspecting victims. So I got in there, and it's sort of like, what do you know about crypto? And they're sort of like, their understanding was they know it exists and they want to know more about it, but they don't know where to start. And in that 10 to 15 minute journey, I was able to effectively onboard them and show them how they could participate, which was wild. But it's just like, they don't know how unless somebody helps. So we I guess need to take that initiative and go, okay, we can make it easy for everybody to participate using 1, 2, 3, 4 steps. But what I found really refreshing is that the people there are like, I want to be a part of it. I want to know, I want to learn, and I'm open to it. And it seems that the higher up as well is also open to, well, how do we make this work for everybody? And that's something unique and something special, because it's not trying to suppress it. It's more so, how can we make it so that it's, let's call it, equitable for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Nice. So yeah, I think you're right. We've got a pretty strong adoption rate in New Zealand. No one knows the real numbers. If anybody should know, it's probably me. But even I don't know what the real numbers are. But we suspect
I heard it's about 25%.
Yeah, I suspect there's somewhere around about 1 million Kiwis that own crypto. So it's a fairly well penetrated market already. If you look at demographics of New Zealand, the data I've got on that, we're talking about 50% of people in that age group, right? That sort of 18 to 45-year-olds. Like, most of the people in that age group in New Zealand are now turned on to crypto, which is exciting. So I think, we've got a lot of opportunities in New Zealand to leverage this new economy, or this new economic system, or this new financial system. There's interesting applications that are being rolled out. We talked a couple of weeks ago about tokenized real estate. There's conversations about, from the farm to the table, and how blockchain can augment supply chains and provide the agricultural sector, which is a huge part of the New Zealand economy, with greater insight, greater validation, potentially higher prices at market, efficiencies across the chain. So, I'm really excited about what's coming down the pipe that's not just crypto related and sort of trading and exchanging and buying and selling of crypto, but how this technology is actually reshaping the way that certain industries are done, and revolutionizing and the impact that will also have on those industries. So excited to have some of that stuff on display at Crypto Winter, which is only 2 weeks or so away now. So we're really at the pointy end. We're gearing into, what is shaping up to be the biggest conference in our space in New Zealand's history. So it's pretty exciting to be a part of that. And we're really stoked for you to be coming over and for MEXC to have such a significant role in it. Tell us a little bit about the decision to join in with Crypto Winter, what you're looking forward to from the conference's point of view, and what delegates that are coming down to Queenstown can expect from MEXC.
Yeah, awesome. So we, first of all, we're so excited to be there because I think it is the biggest event in New Zealand. And if it's going to be the biggest event in New Zealand in terms of cryptocurrency, in terms of blockchain, in terms of being at the table to understand what's happening in the ecosystem and letting the general citizen and populace know that we exist, we're going to be there. And I think it's important for us to be at the table too, because as I said before, if we're wanting to be the spearhead, if we're wanting to be prominent in the Australian-New Zealand market, these are the things that we need to be present at and need to be at the table to discuss things and to be a part of the conversations as we move forward, because it is really important to understand what the landscape is. And so coming to New Zealand, firstly, I mean, excellent location. How can you not be excited about being in Queenstown in August? It's picture perfect. So that, I mean, obviously that's a big draw card to being there in terms of just geographically fantastic. But what's on offer too, I suppose, is, you know, like I said, the ability to be a part of, and at the table of some of the more prominent conversations. And it feels like, you know, we're early. I mean, we're early. You know, just like everybody says with crypto, we're still early. And to be here at that foundational level, first crypto winter, I think it's an excellent place to be, and I'm really excited to be a part of that journey as well, to help shape the journey.
Amazing. Well, yeah, we couldn't be more grateful to have one of the largest exchanges on the planet taking an interest in this market. I'm excited to see the impact that the event has and how we're able to promote and amplify the messages of MEXC and turn on a whole bunch of New Zealanders to the opportunities that the platform provides. I think it's going to be an exciting couple of days where we're going to really red pill a whole bunch of people. We've got a very, very strategic approach to bringing in people that can actually influence the industry significantly, who aren't that engaged yet, and they're going to get an overwhelming couple of days of crypto and blockchain. So I think it's going to be a really important event, and I hope we come out the other side with a whole lot of activity and excitement around the industry here in New Zealand, and then we can roll into it again next year. So, look, if you've made it this far into the podcast, thank you. We appreciate it. And if you are interested in learning more, cryptowinter.nz is the URL to come to the event. You'll meet Jori at the event. I'm sure he'll be more than happy to have you chew his ear off for a few minutes and learn a little bit more about what's going on in the world of MEXC. So if you're interested in meeting Jori or any of the others, please come down to Queenstown. There are still some tickets available.
13-14 August, right?
13-14, yeah. So cryptowinter.nz, it's coming soon. You know, we're gearing up for it. I can see Jori's excited for it. I know Brian's excited for it because he hasn't been able to sleep. In fact, he's already down there in Queenstown 2 weeks earlier.
Just quality testing.
Yeah, he's handing out flyers in the street. So, look, Jori, appreciate your time, mate. Thank you for coming on the podcast. Brian, always a pleasure. Let's pull this one up. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, Jori, you want to start?
I think, and so I will say we're early. We are early. I know everybody says it, but I'm going to say it again. We're early. One last thought on Crypto Winter. You definitely want to come down. You definitely want to come check out the MEXC Lounge. I've got something special prepared. I've got a deck of cards. It's not weird. It's definitely going to be something different, and it's going to be very MEXC, very, very us as well, and very unique in terms of some form of game that maybe you haven't played before. So definitely come down and check us out at the lounge, because I'd love to meet more of you in person as well. But from an Australian New Zealand standpoint, I'm just really excited to be able to share the love of what we have in terms of a platform and a product inside this market, and I can't wait to continue to help build out, so that instead of me standing up at a local group and being like, has anybody heard of us before, and the standard answer is no. I would prefer that the standard answer this time would be yes. So, but huge thanks, Trevor and Brian, for having me on. It's been an awesome morning. I appreciate having you guys in the space too, knowing that everything that you're doing and building is heading us in the right direction.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Brian,
I mean,
any final thoughts, mate?
Yeah, I think I'm going to Jori's point. We are early. Australia, there's 31% crypto adoption. New Zealand, probably 25%. I think at some point it'll be 100%. Whether we own it in our wallet or whether we hold it at MEXC or some other exchange, or maybe our KiwiSaver superannuation has invested in a crypto ETF. I think we'll all have some kind of ownership of crypto. So I think we are early. And if you want to learn more, Crypto Winter 13-14 August in Queenstown at the Rendezvous Hotel. I'm really excited to meet Jori in person. I really appreciate MEXC's support and also appreciate Trevor's hard work organising the event.
Awesome. Well, thank you both. My final thoughts are, if you don't know yet who Blockchain New Zealand are, please discover us, blockchain.org.nz. We are here for the industry, and if you're interested in the industry, building in the industry, or currently engaged in the industry, we'd love to have you as part of our community as well. And on that note, thanks everyone. We'll see you on the next one. Token Affairs.
See you. Token Affairs.